Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to White People Problems, an OC recap podcast where I take Matt into Newport Beach and hilarity ensues. My name is Joe. We hope.
we hope that hilarity ensues.
My name is Joe.
And I am Matt. Joe, we're talking about episode 3, The Gamble. And I messaged you in the middle of watching this episode, and I said, when people roll their eyes that you're watching the OC, this is the worst case scenario for what they're imagining this show to be.
You are 100% correct.
Yeah, like I'm just watching and I'm like, this is so dramatic. Like every second is so over the top. I was texting someone, so we after this we're also recording episode 4, and I was texting a friend of mine about the fact that I'm doing this podcast, and she said, is it like Degrassi level of melodramatic? And I said, I've never seen Degrassi, but the show is everything that I imagined Degrassi to be. In just 4 episodes, kids have been in juvie twice. There's been like 6 fist fights. A house was burnt down. A car was stolen. And there's a money laundering subplot. Like, this is all so much in 4 episodes of this show. There's a little bit of like, hey, here's what the Coens are up to. But in general, it starts with Ryan back in juvie. Sandy Cohen walks in. And I love this man. I love Sandy Cohen so fucking much. He is such a likable person.
Yeah, it really was like they tried to make this I said in the last few episodes, they try to make this the Peter Gallagher vehicle by making him come in and, focusing on him being this, fantastic lawyer, which, like, great. I love a big bushy eyebrows. I love a big Papa Cohen moment. I just think that, like, we're 4 episodes in and we've already seen this kid in like 2 different prison jumpsuits.
Which I got a lot of problems with this. So for the listeners who might not know this, I at one point for a week I got to teach in a juvenile detention center, teach podcasting specifically. Mm-hmm. And admittedly, it was a very like low security juvenile detention center. But it was not prison. Like, this juvie is just a jail set. Like, they are in prison. Specific visitation hour, table room, like behind bars at all times. Mm-hmm. Whereas like the place that I was at was, and maybe my place that I was at was the exception to the rule, but the place that I was at, it was almost like a very heavily guarded boarding school. But they did have to wear like their gray covered like jumpsuit uniform, but like they were frisked when they walked into every room and stuff like that. But beyond that, it was just a regular school that I was in. It wasn't like there was bars on every window and sure. Like, I don't know. I just there's this part of me that's like, is he in jail or is he in juvie? Because they don't look identical.
No, he's like in full Gen Pop, like yeah, I was like, wait, what the fuck is he doing in Attica all of a sudden? Like,
yeah, like it's for like just being near a house burning down with no evidence that he was tied to the fire. Like, it seems dramatic, let's say, for him to be there already. And then Ryan's already like, we're 3 episodes in and there's prison fights in this show. Like, that's like, and it's like Shawshank Redemption level prison fight. Like, guy picking him up and slamming him on a table with like a knife, like a fork at his neck. And there's more that happens in a couple seconds, but like, I got a lot of questions just about the security in this juvenile detention center, because they let things escalate pretty crazily before they step in every time that we're in this building. Yeah.
Like, again, Attica, like we get, it's very much that Michael Jackson song, they don't care about us. Like,
yeah. What I appreciate here, though, is that this is taking a little bit of liberties here, but you could say that like episode 1 is about Sandy Cohen learning to love Ryan. Mm-hmm. Episode 2 is a little bit of like Seth and Marissa learning to love Ryan. Mm-hmm. But this episode is definitively Kirsten learning to love Ryan.
She's the last one that's fully on board.
Yeah, and there are moments where I don't know if there was anything where I straight up had like some tears coming out, but there were moments where I like put my hands over my heart, was like, oh. And early on is Seth is trying to sneak out. He's going to apparently skateboard his way to juvie, which is a
in
very...
Chino, by the
way. Yes, from Newport to Chino. He's going to skateboard there. Kirsten catches him. And there is this theme that really pops up in this episode. It's been really obvious out the gate to me that like Sandy does not really like the overall Newport Beachness of society, but like he's married to someone who's part of that. This is the episode where we really start to see how little Kirsten still cares for the Newport Beachness of living in Newport Beach. So they're trying to plan a casino night, but she's finding any excuse to like not be there for the planning. And she does that thing that I love to hear in like poorly written dialogue where it's like, even the writers couldn't be bothered to come up with a fake excuse, so she just says, I have to go check on that thing.
I'm a career woman. I have to go check on that thing.
Exactly. I'm like, all right. But it does raise a question to me. Have you ever been to a casino night?
Actually, have I? Yes, I actually have. I used to work at a hotel, and the kind of like employee gala, which was always around the holidays. One year the gala was like Vegas themed, and so they did have in one of the bigger ballrooms, they had a company come in and do a bunch of like casino games. So
nice.
So that was fun to do that.
Yeah,
but I've also been to like an actual casino. So
I've been to an actual casino. I've done like 2.5 casino nights. I guess technically 3.5, depending. But like the one was in college. We definitely planned a casino night as a fundraiser for something at one point. Not the most popular fundraiser we've ever done, which was shocking because kids would literally sit and play Texas Hold'em for hours.
Sure.
In the cafeteria. So we thought, hey, here you can actually win money on a variety of things with a real life dealer, and they were like, "Now we're good with our table." But then for 2 years in a row, the last 2 years that I worked at my desk job before COVID hit, for the work party, we would be like, we would have our cocktail hour. They would move us into the dining hall for our sit down dinner, and then the first year they surprised us. They opened up the doors, and while we were eating dinner for the hour, they had converted the cocktail room completely into a casino night room and had given us all like $30 worth of chips to play whatever games we wanted. They couldn't be cashed in for money, but they could be cashed in for tickets to put into like a silent raffle type thing. And then that was so popular they did it a second year. I participated in neither one of those, mostly because the only stuff that I even felt remotely comfortable spending my tokens on would have been like a couple rounds of like blackjack or something that's like low energy, simple game. And since that was where everybody was and it was like overcrowded, I was like, I could just hang out and talk to my friends from work instead while all the people I don't like from work are playing card games. So that was the closest I've ever come to a casino night, but I'm not against it. I actually would prefer a casino night to an actual casino, because if I go to a casino, all I'm going to do is put like $20 into a slot machine and just like lose $20 and then be done with it.
Sure.
But I like a good low stakes card game. You know what I mean? Like hey, here's some tokens that don't mean anything. Like, sure, I'll play a round of poker with like money that I'm not afraid to lose because it's not real.
Exactly. Like no one likes to lose money, and that's that's the surest way is to just play a bunch of blackjack. I know that because there was in a previous job, it was like a particularly rough summer, and I would like drive to the casino that was closest to my house immediately after work and sit at a blackjack table for hours, just decompressing and compartmentalizing the day.
Of all of the card games, it is the easiest one to just shut your brain off and just sit there and say, hit me, hold. And that is like all you need to be capable of doing.
Exactly. And if you play by the book blackjack, then, you're actually not it's actually fairly predictable what you're going to
Yep.
be doing.
The thing that made my heart squeeze out the gate is Seth is trying to skateboard to Chino, gets caught by Kirsten, who is snuck outside because she had to go check on the thing. And she's yelling at him, and she says to him, like, well, what would you like to do? And he said, I would like for you to come with me. And without hesitation, she just says, okay. And like the quickness in which she was willing to like go and visit this kid that she doesn't know in juvie because it's so important to her only son, like, oh, like my heart like broke just a little bit from that. So Seth decides that he's gonna run over to Marissa's house and see if she wants to come with. Because, you know, him, Marissa, and Ryan have formed this nice little bond. And this is where we get some good old-fashioned mid-2000s homophobic prison talk from Summer. Still hate Summer. Still don't see the appeal of Summer. But man, Seth can't even look at Summer in a very not revealing bra without just stammering like an idiot. Just, I don't get the Summer attraction at all.
It's not great. It's not great. Which, like, you know, again, this is a little bit of foreshadowing, but to be fair, Summer has like the most defined arc of of like her character development in terms of like the series, the episodic structure of the entire series. She has the best arc.
Okay. I'm keeping up mine. I hated Paris with the first season or so.
Yeah.
Gilmore Girls, and then I absolutely adored Paris in every rewatch. So I'm not thinking that she's beyond redemption, but I honestly dislike Summer to the point that it makes me disrespect Seth a little bit more, where I'm like, this is the person you've dedicated it all to.
And say that, Matt. Like, seriously, we'll talk about it in the next episode.
Oh, yeah.
but like, they're really like, how like I lose respect for you because you like this, you know, living like trash human being.
Yes.
So yeah, especially, and being like, you know, being young, a young gay fellow, right? Like, that's kind of like low-key thirsting over Seth Cohen being like her, like, which which was like my kind of like early queer crushes on straight men were always like her. It was, you know, it was very like, you know, Alexa, play Dancing on My Own by Robin.
Do you know the story of that specific song in Philadelphia right now, though?
There's a whole thing. What?
Yes. This is the dumbest thing, and it's the most frustrating thing.
There is like do a music video about it or something? Or
no, there's a slow ass country cover of that song by by Colin Scott, I think his name is, or Colum Scott, and the pitcher for the Phillies decided that country song was his hype up song, and it became the hype up song for the whole team. So when they were going to the World Series, anywhere you went in Philadelphia for like 2 weeks during the playoffs and World Series, you would just hear this country version of Dancing with Myself, and like on the internet you would hear everybody being like, just listen to the Robin version. The Robin version is so much better than this.
Is he gay?
No. He just really liked Colum's. I am willing to bet he had zero clue it was a cover. Like, I think that he was just like, hey, this country artist I like does this really great song that brings me joy.
Okay, well, I just added it to my library, and I will give you my thoughts on the song.
You will listen to it exactly one time and then be like, I will just stick with the Robin version that I know and love.
Well, see, here's the thing, right? There was a cover of Dancing on My Own that came out a few years ago that was also by a male artist, but I don't know if it was Callum Scott.
That might be the one.
It might be
that might be the one.
See, but he uses the female pronouns, implying that he's lusting after a male, I believe. So,
oh, maybe not then. Cullum Scott version was in 2016, so that may have been the one.
That
adult contemporary pop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Somehow it became the song of the Phillies this year. Yeah, I can't explain it, but yeah. So I have to ask. I hinted at this already, but Kirsten and Seth go to visit Ryan in this juvenile detention center. And while they're trying to have a conversation, a dude is just straight up sexually objectifying Kirsten, and security does zero to handle the situation until it is full-blown fisticuffs on the floor of this prison.
Considering that it is like it's not juvie, it's like literal prison. I mean, like, we are supposed to believe it's juvie, but it's basically literal prison. You would think that there would be a little bit more security. I don't know.
Yeah, you would imagine, yeah. But this moment, seeing this happens, makes Kirsten have her full change of heart, where she realizes if this kid stays here, this kid is going to die. Mm-hmm. Like, they are going to murder him.
And like, let's give it up for like Francis Capra, right? AKA Weevil from Veronica Mars.
That's what he was from. I was like, I know this guy. Why do I know this guy? Yes, Weevil. Veronica Mars, which is a show, you and I have talked about the idea that if white people problems was to like become more popular than we could ever imagine, and we had to do a show after the OC, I was like, Veronica Mars might be strong contention for that.
Yeah.
I was thinking that, or Pretty Little Liars, which I've never seen a second of.
I have also never seen Pretty Little Liars.
So that could be a fun follow-up, because I feel like that's probably packed with white people problems.
Yes. Well, like, I was thinking like the original Gossip Girl too.
That was the third one that I had in my head, because I've never watched that either. But all right, we've still got 20 or 93 episodes of the OC to go through, so we'll worry about that when that time comes. But if you're listening and you really have a hot take on which of those three shows we should possibly do next, if we do anything, let us know. Something that I like was, I wouldn't say I was screaming at my TV, but I was definitely screaming in my notes. Kirsten still uses this argument where she's like, we do have to find his mother, though. Mm-hmm. And Seth's like, what if he doesn't want to be with his mother? He wants to be with us. And she uses the, like, he's just a kid. He doesn't know any better. And I'm like, motherfucker's 17 years old. Like, you can't use the he's just a kid argument. Like, at most, he's going to be under your roof for maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't like you're talking about, like, an 8-year-old who's just like, I don't like my mommy. Like, clearly, if he is 17, is like, my mom is a bad thing for me. Like, we don't need the next episode that shows us how bad of a relationship that is. We should just take this kid's word at that point.
Yeah. And also, like at the end of the first episode, she like left.
Yeah, she abandons him.
Well, she kicks him out, and then she abandons
and then
him.
Moves. Yeah, and then abandons. Like, yep, this is the one we got to get him back in touch with. Come on, Kirsten, get it together.
This is where her Newport shows. This is where she's like, you know, it's that thing where like old money is very proper. There's a proper way of doing things, which, you know, to her credit, being who she is, like, she married Sandy Cohen, like, you know, and it's this, so the like polar opposite of everything that community stands for, and, you know, nurtures the better side of Kirsten in my mind.
And we cannot, I mean, as we're shoving more and more praise on Sandy Cohen, all the respect in the world to Sandy Cohen for hearing people talk mad shit about him. And, like, I feel like in 9 out of 10 shows, he would just silently listen to them talk shit, maybe feel a little sad, but mostly feel like a bit of a superiority. Not Sandy Cohen. Sandy Cohen makes sure that they know that he is there and that he has heard every goddamn word that they have said about him. Like, just marches over the table, sits down, still cool as a cucumber, talking to them about it, which leads to this great line with, I to this day, I do not know her name, but Marissa's mom.
Julie Cooper.
Julie Cooper. All right, because I know Jimmy, I know Marissa, and then it's always just Marissa's mom.
Okay, you're going to put some respect on Julie Cooper's name, because she is like my favorite character of the entire series.
We'll see how, because she's pretty low ranking for me right now. But
I have a lot to say about Julie Cooper as we continue. So just
okay.
I'll
lock that in here.
Yes, lock it in, Matt, because this is a Julie Cooper stan account.
But when she says, he said I was from Riverside, and Jimmy goes, but you are from Riverside. She goes, well, it was the tone in which he said it. But one of the quotes that I fucking loved in this whole episode is Ryan is helping Kirsten set up, and they're having this conversation about what she does for work, and he's actually taking an interest in it because he has some experience from past jobs. And he says, I used to want to be an architect. And she says, well, what do you want to be now? And he just says 17.
Mm-hmm.
And it is such, that's where I'm like, that's good fucking writing right there.
Yes.
That is
cue Janice Ian at 17 playing in the background.
Yeah, but it's like, that is, as much as I can talk shit on a lot of the beats that happen in this episode, that line is so beautiful because it really says how much Ryan has had to deal with as a kid, where it's clearly been that he has had to be the adult in his family's life. Mm-hmm. And now he's at the Coens, and all he's looking forward to with being at the Coens is actually just getting to be a kid, like being a dumb kid for a little bit. And boy, do we get to see some dumb kid shit in the next episode or two, because, but I love the writing of that line. I think that is top-notch dialogue right there. But I'm about to disrespect your girl because I literally wrote, Marissa's mom is the fucking worst. I've heard people talk shit on Jimmy, and maybe even I did in one of our first episodes, but I'm warming up to him a bit, and I am liking her less. Now, then the next episode happens, and my feelings on Jimmy change slightly, but at this point in time, I'm just like, God, Marissa is terrible. Marissa's mom is terrible. Julie Cooper, again, I'm open to... Again,
true.
I hated Emily Gilmore for a while.
Yes.
My opinions of people change if the show's writing convinces me. But at this point in time, I feel like I'm supposed to not like Julie Cooper anyway.
Yeah, she also has I hate to say it, but she does have this very witchy RBF, going RBF face. She plays this. Oh my God, I think her name is Melinda Clark. The actress, she goes on to play one of my favorite characters in the CW show Nikita. If you remember Nikita,
I do not. No, I do.
She also is she has a recurring guest role in the original CSI where she plays a dominatrix. I think it's Mistress Amanda that is in love with Grisham. She just has she has the career that I want as a performer. I just want to come in and serve face and deliver lines and stuff. But you're definitely supposed to empathize with the kids and not see it from the parents' point of view. But I don't know if it's because I am older now. I really think that Julie Cooper, everything that she does, especially in the first season, is entirely justified. And I can totally see myself making the same calls. But again, it's that Riverside thing. It's that I come from I come from nothing. And so I want the scarcity of that I'm really concerned about, because I know what it's like to live in a trailer and all of that, which I want to ask you. Okay, so the Riverside discrimination is a correct thing. It's you're from Riverside, that's definitely something that at least in Southern California, there is people feel a way about. In your area, what is the Riverside of your area?
It is actually, this is very easy. Because
and are you from there?
No, I'm just outside of it. It's Chester and it's Camden, New Jersey. Both of them have, I think they're usually in the top 10 murder rate in the United States. I know they're the highest murder rate in both of those areas in the East Coast. And it's sad, honestly. I'll hear people talk about, because I literally live 5 minutes from Chester, where I'm at, but it's one of those situations, and I wonder if Riverside is the same in this, where it's the Chester problems stay in Chester. They never introduce themselves into our town, even though it's a 5-minute divide. But around Halloween time, people will drive their kids into our area to go trick-or-treating. And I have zero problem with that, but there are people that have a huge problem with that. And if they see that it's a bunch of Chester kids coming to trick-or-treat, they'll literally shut off their lights and lock up their doors. And I'm like, why? For what reason? Like, so you are aware that Chester is a dangerous place, so much so that you don't want to go there, but you're like, well, fuck these 5-6-year-olds. They should risk death just to get candy because I feel uncomfortable with people who are different than me coming into this town to get candy.
How do they know that the kids are from Chester?
Oh, here's where we get into the racism of the East Coast. Oh, it is. It might be a skin pigment that gives away the difference between a person from this town and the next town over. It's rough, and that's the stuff that I don't like. And actually, one of the many things I think we've talked about on here, but I work for a church. I work specifically with the youth in the church, and something that I've always loved is that one of the oldest people that's worked with the youth, who still works there today, he worked there when I was a youth, was a police officer who specifically focused on like child abuse cases. Like he was former cop turned like almost undercover detective. So he does a lot of that like To Catch a Predator stuff. But his choice in doing that was to focus more energy on the township of Chester. He actively requests to be working on those cases because he knows that those are the types of cases where if there's a child being abused or being put in a bad situation, it's like, well, it's Chester, and they'll just like leave it alone. Sure. If not for him making the request. He is the Sandy Cohen. He's saying, no, I want to be there and help these kids. And there is an element of, I'm sure in any case, there is an element of a little bit of a white saviorism in there. But I think more than anything, it's just if I don't do this, no one is going to help these kids. And then these kids' futures are already determined before they've had a chance to make their future choices.
I smell a reboot.
Yeah. The CC, the Chester County.
Yes, the Chester County.
But yeah,
welcome to the CC, bitch.
But yeah, it's that's definitely the big one. That is the one where it's like, because that's also one of those cases. I'm not sure if this happens in California, but like it is not uncommon that if you are a kid who lives in Chester County, but you have any relative that lives anywhere near Delaware County, you will use that address to be able to go to the nicer, safer school. And again, I've got no problem with it. Many of those kids end up being valedictorians at the school because they're, put in an educational situation where they can just focus on their studies and not worry about like the bullshit that's happening in a bad area of town. But there are definitely people who raise a fucking fit about this and want to try to get these kids caught for using a false address so that they get kicked out of the school and sent back to where they belong, quote unquote. Now, people suck. Society sucks. And that is a topic that they do hit a lot on the OC. And they hit it so far pretty okay. What they don't hit well is not depicting addiction the way that you would in a high school play with just shaky hands. And so Ryan's mom shows up and they're like, hey, come to casino night. You haven't drank for a month, which, like, I don't know how many people you know that deal with addiction. I know quite a few. Mm-hmm. A month is not enough time to throw someone in the deep end of where there's going to be alcohol freely available.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, have fun. Go gamble.
Go gamble. Surrounded by, a bunch of lush, rich people, just, yeah.
Which, this is the thing that blows my mind, is when Ryan's mom gets so drunk in this casino, she falls down. This town is acting like no one in the history of Newport Beach has ever gotten sloppy drunk in the history of this town, which, like, we won't talk too much about next week's episode, but like literally next week's episode, there's a full-blown fist fight. And I was like, but these people are worried about what Ryan is going to do to their town. Like, their town's a mess. Newport Beach is a fucking mess, whether Ryan is there or not. I hate so much of the Ryan's mom at this casino thing. I wrote down that this casino night is a comedy of errors minus the comedy.
It's just errors. It's all errors.
It's all errors. Summer and Seth building a pseudo relationship because him blowing on her dice seems to be giving her good luck. Yeah. I was just like, oh, Jesus Christ, this shit. I'm like, well, like, I was so over it.
Also, we're like meant to believe that Ryan's mom is like, it wasn't enough that she was just poor and a drunk. Like, now she's also some kind of con artist. Like, she counts cards.
Yeah. We really got to stack the deck, pun intended, against Ryan's mom here. This is like too much. This is, I think the next episode that we're going to talk about, it's a little bit more palpable to me, but like this is just too fucking much for me. It's like there's too many moving pieces of just devastation and tragedy happening left and right.
But the reason why it all kind of works, right, is like it's similar to why Gilmore Girls work. It's the goofy camp of it all, but then you have the moments like I just want to be 17, or at the very end of this episode when Ryan's like, I'll unpack later. Like that moment always gets me. Like,
I literally just wrote, how do you not love the joy on Ryan's face when he says I'll unpack later? Like that is that's essentially the last line of the episode. It's a perfect way to end the episode after all the chaos. The one thing that doesn't hold up with the Gilmore Girls comparison, I think, with this show so far anyway, is that to me, when I was watching Gilmore Girls anyway, the Gilmore Girls essentially became my least favorite characters in the show. Mm-hmm. Like my enjoyment of Gilmore Girls was all of the craziness that is like the wacky, lovable townsfolk of Stars Hollow. Mm-hmm. And it made like the bitchiness of people at Chilton more palpable. It made like Lorelei's struggle with her parents more palpable because there were always these huge comedic relief breaks of like whatever the fuck they've got Sean Gunn up to. You know what I mean? Like this, we don't get that. It's like this show wants to make sure that we care about the Gilmore Girls and nobody else, so much so that like I'm not getting a lot of relief from like, oh, here's like a wacky, charming side character here at Newport Beach. Like they're all awful. Like everybody here is awful, but the Coens. I do hope that changes. There was a glimmer of hope in the next episode where I'm like, oh, this is like a charming person that I'm sure will only be here a couple episodes, but maybe. But all in all, I would say that this is probably my least favorite of the 4 episodes I've watched so far, but it's still, I have watched such worse television in my life. And yeah, I love that, like you said, that 17 line, the I'll unpack later, like when you're hitting those beats, it's so good. I just wish that the casino night of it all wasn't such a fucking over the top melodramatic train wreck.
Well, that's the kind of thing that like you have as a mid-season finale, or you have in a finale, right? It's the
we'll
big
talk about that next week. I think next week has some details that are revealed where I'm like, how is this episode 4 and not like literally like the mid-season break episode? Like it doesn't make, from a writer standpoint, it doesn't make sense. And I'm actually excited. We're going to have our first guest next week who is a writer, and I would love to dissect that with them as well, because it is kind of like a, why would you reveal all of this so quickly? Like these are a lot of cards to throw on the table this quickly.
Hey, do you have an idea for a podcast but don't know where to start? Or do you have an already existing podcast that you want to take to the next level? Well, check out WeKnowPodcasting.com. From concept development to theme music to editing to logos, WeKnowPodcasting.com is a one-stop shop for all things pod. Don't hesitate to hit us up. We're very nice.
Let's talk about the music. So the first 2 episodes, there was a ton of music in each episode. This one had 3 songs. There was Brooke's Wanna Be Happy, which plays when we're hanging out in Marissa's room in Summers, making her really timely prison jokes about Ryan. There's James Horner's version of Sing, 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 which is like the whole first half of the casino. And then there's Turin Breaks Rain City, which plays as Ryan's mom decides to leave and gives Ryan to the Coens, realizing that the best gift that she could give her son as his mom is to give him to a mom that will love him more than she can.
Is to abandon him.
To abandon him, which, to be fair, she ain't wrong.
No, she's not wrong. She is not wrong.
But
like that whole
bad conclusion to come to as a mom.
Before we go on to the music, that part where she like waves and he's like waving at her like bye, not even gonna hug me, not even like nothing, like the shame that she has to feel, right? To just be like, well, I failed, so I'm out.
Yeah, bye.
Yeah.
And then car drives away. But so of those 3 songs, is there one that particularly jumps out at you as the song of the episode?
It's Sing, Sing, Sing. I mean,
it's 100% Sing, Sing, Sing. The presentation of that song with all of the chaos at the casino, like before Ryan's mom starts drinking, I am actually having fun at the casino. I can deal with the goofiness of like the love triangle that's happening with Marissa, Luke, and Ryan, and like the Seth and Summer where she keeps calling him Stanley but is like using him for good luck. Like this is like at a level that is palpable to me.
Well, it's also like they're using the different phrases in the song.
Yes.
To relate to the action that, like when you get to the, do 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 do, like it's just like they're really they're also like building up to something as well, and it's just and it's an iconic song, right? Like it's a
classic song. The only thing that's missing, honestly, in a better show, this would have been a tracking shot. You know what I mean? Like this would have been like a 3 to 5 minute tracking shot of we're just like moving Goodfellas style, like through them coming in the casino and just kind of, this was definitely not the time in TV where people were getting creative and being like, can we shoot this as a oneer?
No. Which, like, I mean, again, we would have loved to see it, like, give me like 4 steady cams, like, just like, but it works. It all works, and it works because of the song. That's the other thing. Like it's perfect for what it is because of the music that's being used.
And I can't even think of another song from that era that would be more appropriate. Like I'm like thinking, and I'm someone who knows a decent amount of like big jazz standards, but this is the one. Like this is the one that works. So yeah, it was not my favorite episode, but it was still fun. It had its moments. It had its great lines of dialogue. But Joe, we end these episodes by talking about pop culture.
Yeah.
And we talk about, this show really was truly a pop culture moment in the world when it was happening. Is there a pop culture moment currently or even just throughout the history of time that you are just getting on board for in this day and age?
It's so funny you should mention that because like I'm trying not to be too current, right? Because I know that
I'm struggling and failing with it. This week and next week is going to be some current stuff that will be dated when this episode comes out.
I know it's going to be like, oh God, it's so dated. I want to say that the thing that I love that's just reminding me of all of this is the like solidly early aughts fashion choices. Like just the fashion in general of just like long past the knee shorts and the choker, like Ryan's choker, like he's a straight man wearing a full leather choker. Like come on, like this is the spaghetti straps of it all, the Keds, the Peds like white sneaker, these like these skirts, like it's giving Aeropostale, it's giving all of this. Like I remember going to the mall and being like, this is where the cast of the OC shops. Like you walk into a Hollister, right? And it's like dark. And then all of a sudden it's the opening guitar riff from Dare You to Move, right? That's every time I look at this, John, I'm like, this is exactly what, like, this is how people dressed in that time. Popped collar, polo shirts, like literal polo, Izod, like all of that stuff.
All right. I accept that as an answer. Yeah, that is a throwback, but a thing that I can also see coming back sooner rather than later because we're in the 90s Renaissance right now, and the 90s Renaissance I think is going to be short-lived. I think we're going to get right into those early aughts.
I think that Gen Z is very much living for like, the decay that was the 90s.
For sure. Also, side note about Gen Zers, there's a podcast that I produce where one of the hosts is on that borderline of a millennial into a Gen Zer, as you know. And he texted me the other day in all caps and said, "Why did you never tell me that CeeLo Green was also Gnarls Barkley?" And I find it so funny that this is like new information to people in 2022.
But that's not technically true, though, right? Because Gnarls Barkley is CeeLo and Danger Mouse, right? So Gnarls Barkley is like this is the whole is.
It is a collaboration. I think his point is I had no clue that was CeeLo Green's voice singing the song "Crazy." But
this is one of those things where it's like is Bon Iver a person or a band, right?
Yes. Exactly. So my pop culture promo thing is going to be super current and super dated for when this episode comes out. But Atlanta wrapped up its final season, and it was just a flawless season of television.
Yeah.
Like it is 4 perfect seasons of television. Donald Glover. I am waiting for Donald Glover to fully complete his transformation into being the next Jordan Peele, who just starts making these very interesting, compelling horror movies, because so much of Atlanta, when they would do these weird side stories, had a horror angle to them that I'm just like, just do it. Just pull the trigger. Make a crazy fucking psychological horror film that tackles everything that's happening in the cultural life right now. Because he clearly has that gift in this season of Atlanta, and I expect that gift is only going to flourish more over time.
Sure, yeah.
But Joe, we'll be back next week to talk about the debut. I'm catching a naming theme across these episodes. How very Friends of them.
Yes, how subtle too. The subtlety.
So we will watch the debut, which is a great name for episode 4 of a TV series. And we'll be back with our first guest.
Yay.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.